Alright guys, our prayers to Sigmar have finally been heard. We're back with the Empire facing off against Khorne with the new and improved Karl Franz baby, plus 1000 HP. Let's go. He's finally kind of in the category of King Lewin, and we're also going to be bringing some other goodies to bear. Now, as far as our army goes, it is going to be the new and improved Karl Franz. His abilities didn't really get changed outside of his HP, but honestly, that was really his big issue, was he was very squishy. But now that Franz has 6,800 HP instead of 5,600, that is a big deal. He's still going to be an excellent fighter against demonic factions with his magic damage. He also has anti-large against some of the things like Skull Crushers and Minotaurs of Khorne with Galmaraz. And Reikland Runefang is really good for winning those important blob fights. So Karl Franz is here and he is ready to party. As far as the other new units we have, we are going to be using the dreaded LANDSHIP. And the LANDSHIP is actually, you know, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this thing's going to be a meme, but it is actually really good. It's kind of like a war wagon in the sense that it has two war wagon crews on top. It's a good battering ram and good at running over infantry. And it also has a cannon that it's going to be shooting nonstop from the front. But for that, it does need to be facing the right direction. On top of that, the LANDSHIP can be sped up here, so you can see the not abandoned ship. That happens later. It is full power. So when you pop this, it goes really quickly and can really run things over pretty damn well. Aside from that, we do have Theodore Bruckner. This guy is awesome. He's a really good Empire Duelist character. He's fast, he's furious, and there's going to be some really powerful synergies with using Theodore with Boris Todbringer, and I'll show you why. He does have the Titan Headsman, so you activate this on any unit, and it's going to be slowing them down and lowering MD, so I like the idea of running him with like Demogryph Knights, and if they're going to be taking a fight for something, you debuff them using the Titan Headsman. But he also has a leadership debuff called the Fearsome Combatant. So if you have him with Boris Todbringer, that's going to be, I believe, -16 or -20 leadership in total, something like that, which is insanely good. Obviously, undead factions won't care, demons won't care, but there's a lot of factions, well, they still care because demons and undead can crumble, but it's a really nice synergy. So he's going to be rolling with the Demogryph Knights. He has a couple of activated items and abilities you can bring, but I didn't bring those. They just seemed a little bit janky. We got Great Swords and Spearmen with a Jade Wizard in the back, and in the front skirmishing game, we do have the Outriders. And Outriders have been reworked, so a lot of the Empire shooting in general, they seem much more effective now than they were before. Honestly, I would say in many situations, Outriders arguably might just straight up be better than the War Wagons. War Wagons did get reworked, and they don't seem to be nearly as good as they were before. Still good, but you know, not what they once were. And I think that you're going to be seeing a lot of the basic Outriders now. So for my opponent's army here, it's going to be Khorne. He's got Warhounds, Fleshhounds, Marauder Horsemen, a huge Khornate Infantry Corps, 2 units of Skull Crushers. So really looking to kind of contest the infantry game, or the cavalry game, excuse me, the monster game. Because obviously the Knights of the Black Rose are something that Empire players might bring to try and deal with Khornate Infantry because they have high MD and anti-infantry. But in this case, I decided to go for my demis and win the anti-large fight using the Great Swords in tandem with the dreaded LANDSHIP. So the LANDSHIP is already shooting its cannon, and you can see the pistol shots on the side, the broadside, are doing excellent, not pistol, but long rifle shots, are doing excellent work at kind of fending off some of the units. And now we're going to be getting a bit of a fight here. So the Skull Crushers and the Demogryphs going to take an engagement. Demi's turn at the last second, and it is on. Theodore Bruckner is in. Oh, he's so cool, and I love the winged helmet. That is incredibly rad. But the pit fight is on. Theodore's going to be helping out. Earthblood active as well. And the Prince and Emperor Karl Franz has heard the call of his men and is going to be flying over. But before he gets there, he's intercepted by a foul swarm of Chaos Furies up in the sky. So the Emperor going to be doing battle with these beasts for a moment. Meanwhile, the LANDSHIP going to be running over some of the marauders on the ground and continuing to shoot on the broadside. But Franz not going to be distracted for too long. Oh, it's so good to be able to finally use him and have him be decent. So Franz is in here, baby. The Galmaraz wielded high in the sky, and the Reikland Runefang. And these Skull Crushers are going to be in some danger, as they're also debuffed by the Titan Headsman, lowering their melee defense and their speed. Meanwhile, the Outriders of Sigmar providing some supporting fire against the Fleshhounds on the flank. Good Fury play from my opponent, though, able to chase away my Outriders, which I will be pulling through these spears. And on the other side, the LANDSHIP, I kind of forgot about it a little bit, but, you know, it gets in there, runs over some of these bad boys. Full power is active, so its speed is pretty good. But Khorne does have good mass, and unfortunately, the LANDSHIP is going to be swarmed by Minotaurs as well as Fleshhounds, but this thing has pretty insane mass, 7,500, so it is going to be able to push through most things, but unfortunately, it's taking a lot of damage, which feels bad. But on this side, Karl Franz, the Demogryph Knights with the Reikland Runefang, and Theodore Bruckner, the Titan Headsman here, able to win their fight and chase off the Skull Crushers. Now, obviously, I had a lot more power in that particular fight, but it's time for round 2. It's like, remember in Lord of the Rings when Theoden is at Pelennor Fields and they win the initial engagement? They're like, yeah, and then suddenly the Mumakils show up. It's kind of like this. Another full health unit of Skull Crushers is going to be on its way in, and the tattered Demogryph Knights turn to meet the charge with the Headsman and the Emperor in tow. And the other, looks like the other Skull Crushers have actually rallied as well. So the Demi's finally going to meet their end here, but Franz and Theodore are going to be fighting hard to try and win this fight, and we'll keep tabs on that one. Now, on the other areas of the battlefield, the Outriders are being hunted and chased down, and it looks like they're both in okay shape so far, but there is a little bit of a pincer going on as the Furies hunt them here and the Marauders hunt them there. The Great Swords of Sigmar are able to beat the Marauders, and most likely will start moving into the center. And the dreaded Landship, if anything, has really distracted my opponent quite a bit. They've allocated a massive portion of their army to try and deal with it, but it has such good mass and mobility that I think factions that have to defeat it in melee, it's not going to be an easy one. It's kind of like dealing with Chaos Dwarf trains, and those can be very difficult for factions like Khorne, except this one shoots and has a cannon, so it's really good. But the Landship's still rolling, Limp Biscuiting all over this, all of this battle. Theodore Bruckner and Karl Franz with a nice Blood Roar combination. So Franz does have Blood Roar, -8 + 4, so -12 leadership to nearby units. That's going to make proccing terror much easier too, so I think Theodore will be very good in a lot of Empire builds. I can see him being used as well with Elspeth. Elspeth, of course, has death magic, so you can get some crazy leadership debuffs with Elspeth using Doom and Darkness, and Theodore, and all those fun units there. So here comes the Sleipnir. That's going to be a great cast. Tears through my State Troopers. But again, they're cheap spearmen. On the outside, we can see the Outriders kiting effectively. Meanwhile, the Landship continues to circle, ripping big, colossal shots as it goes. Oh, this is just so righteous. I love that the Empire's got some like cool tricks now. Like, the meta for the Empire before was kind of like stagnant. It was very dependent on grenade launchers. But as I was like building my army for this game, I had the thought, I was like, man, there is like so many builds I could do with the Empire. So many playstyles that are viable now. They just have like such a range of new units. Like the Knights of the Black Rose are awesome. The reworking of all their missile units. The Landship is top tier. The steam tank with the Gatling gun is very good too. They got a lot of fun tricks. Now, as far as the balance of power goes, certainly in my favor here. The State Troopers fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Emperor, and Theodore Bruckner here is helping fight Valkia, because Valkia is an excellent anti-large fighter, right? So yeah, we don't want Franz to take that one alone. Granted, in a straight fight, Franz would probably beat Valkia. Before, it was a little bit dicey, but now that he's got plus 1,000 HP, like what you see Franz's HP at right now is basically what he had before. So it's a big, big difference. And he's going to be grinding away against Valkia. The Landship just cackling and running away, broadsiding whatever it can, ripping shots at Valkia as well. And the cannon is also just going to be randomly shooting things too. I believe these Minotaurs are going to get cannon in a second. You see the shots going down, and let's see when the cannon actually fires. I don't know if you need to stop for the cannon to shoot, or if it has like, oh, there it is. Okay, so yeah, it did shoot those Marauders as they come back. So the balance of power looking really good for the Sigmarites. The Great Swords doing awesome work, and Franz on a date night up here with Valkia the Bloody, while Theodore Bruckner and company continue fighting on the low ground. And that's pretty much going to be it at this point. Khorne looking very beleaguered. Valkia taking missile fire from the Landship. Landship going to be shooting the returning units here. Let's see if we can get a cool shot at that. Oh, it's so cool. Look at this thing. It's such a ridiculous unit. I mean, it just really encapsulates like old school Warhammer fantasy. Really had that kind of like tongue-in-cheek humor and just ridiculous things like this that were like, you know, had some strange correlations to real world things, which I think is what really for me makes it a lot more fun than you know, what you see in Sigmar. But that's gonna be it. GG, well played. Valkia gets karate chops, relentless rage, and the forces of the Empire, the dreaded Landship, and the new and improved Prince and Emperor have claimed victory. So a lot of fun. I mean, there is so much to look at for the Empire, guys. We're going to go through it. I think there's some matchups in which also the Hochland long rifles will be very good. I think against Dwarves are going to be like gods here. But yeah, Sigmar is back in the menu for sure. I predict that in land battle, Empire is going to become a really top tier faction. A really, really top tier. In Dom, they're definitely going to go up a notch. They'll be like in top 5, top 8. They're still a little bit tricky to play in micro-intensive because their troopers are squishy. And they have a lot of mobility that's also very flimsy. So I think at first, my predictions for Empire and Dom would be their win rate will be like in the 40s, like at launch. And then when people start to learn them and learn how their units work, and because there's not many Empire players, but when we get a lot of new players who figure out how to play them and higher level players who didn't play them before who adopt them, I think the Empire will start being like an upper echelon faction, like pretty damn strong. Khorne is obviously a lower tier faction in both Dom and land battle, so take everything you saw with a grain of salt. But the Landship got 2,800 value, shooting cannons into these really expensive units, and it's tough to lock down. Much like the Chaos Dwarf train, honestly, it felt very similar, but has shooting on top of that. Franz did fine. Theodore was good at just kind of helping win some of those pit fights. Demis held their own, but Skull Crushers usually will, I think, beat a Demogryph Knight Halberd straight up, but they held well with the healing from the Jade Wizard. So GG, well played. Valkia did fine. Skull Crushers had some hard fights, and overall the Sigmarites held. So there you go. We'll be back with more replays soon. You guys take care of yourselves, and don't worry, we'll be getting some Dom battles soon as well. Most of the folks who I've been playing with in the early build, they're not Dom players. They're mostly land battle players. So I'm kind of having to adapt and go play that, which I love. I really love playing land battle with friends and people I know. It's just playing land battle on ladder, you can get into some wild stuff. All right, guys, see you around. GG's, and that's it for tonight.